welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. Thanks for joining me today. Today I wanted to talk about over elation. So, what I mean by that is, as the seasons change, this is really what came to mind for me today. As the seasons change, I have a change in my triggers, like what makes me think of drinking. Um, I can say with certainty that I don't crave alcohol anymore. At least I have not for a long time in sobriety. But there are certain things that remind me of drinking. And it changes season by season. So when I think of this topic of over elation and how, there are some people who get triggered like by stress. A lot of people who are in recovery can get triggered to think about drinking when you're stressed or you're feeling something that is difficult, a difficult emotion. And the same thing can happen when you feel over elated, when you feel celebratory or excited about something. And I can admit for sure that when summer rolls around, it gives me like this feeling of freedom that the wintertime doesn't give me. It's just, yeah, I guess it's the vacation vibe or something. Um, and when I think about all the things that I do in this, that I like to do in the summertime, I have years and years of correlating those things with drinking, whether it's when the kids were young. I hate to admit this, but I may have admitted it before actually, but when the kids were young, I always had a blow up pool or a kids pool in the backyard. And I swear I was in that pool more often than the kids. And I would just lay out in the pool and have a glass of wine. I had this like stake in the ground. Like it was like this silver circular stake in the ground and it holds a wine glass. So I would put that stake in the ground right beside the kids' pool and I would freaking act like I was on vacation out out in the backyard. I wonder what the neighbors thought. Honestly, I wonder what the neighbors thought. But whatever, I didn't seem to care. I didn't care about anything. So the kids would go off probably to their friend's house who actually had a real pool. And mom was left behind laying in her own blow up pool. But stuff like that, like when I would mow the lawn, I really tried to have wine in my hand at all times, but it was a little difficult to mow the lawn with wine in my hand. But I did end up, when we got a riding mower, I was able to put wine in like a water bottle and there was a drink holder on the riding mower. And so that was one way that I did it. But and things like going to the beach, going to the pool, I mean, you name it, sitting on a outdoor seating for a restaurant, love to have a drink during that time. But they're all good feelings, it's like a summertime for me feels like an entire season of feeling good, an entire season of celebration, an entire season of like, just kick your shoes off and relax. That's what summer feels like to me. It's always felt like that since I was a kid. I also love disgustingly hot, humid, nasty, sunny weather. It's my favorite kind of weather. If I were to pick something that it would be all the time, if there were no seasons, I would probably pick that, which I know I think I'm very unusual to think that, but I just love it. I love being outside. Um, and these memories of drinking in the summer times challenge me when the beginning of summer rolls around. And so it's not like I when it's not like I think of alcohol and I entertain that thought long enough to consider drinking. It's just it's a thought, it's a memory. It's a memory. It's not entertaining the thought. It's not what I used to feel like, which is if I think about it, then I have to do it. If I want something, I have to do it. And I think I talked about that recently, like I know today that I can choose to listen to my wanter or not. And I don't always turn my wanter off, you know. If I want a Slurpee, then I'm going to go get a Slurpee more often than not. Um, but when there's things that are unhealthy for me, like not that a Slurpee is terribly healthy, but drinking, smoking, all of these things that are really not good. I didn't used to feel like I had a choice whether I was going to do it or not. If I wanted it, if I craved it, I felt like I had to do it. Eventually, I was going to do it anyway. So, it didn't feel like a choice as to whether I entertained the thought or not. It was just once it entered my mind, I felt like I had to carry it out. And in early sobriety, when I would have like drinking dreams, for example, they freaked me out a little bit because sometimes I would wake up and be like, and not like, couldn't figure out, was that a dream or did I really just drink? And I was like panicked a little bit. And today I know that whether it's a dream or in reality, if I think now would have been a time when I would have really enjoyed a beer, I don't panic. There are times when I'll sit at the pool, the neighborhood pool, and I'll look over at like a couple that have like these water bottles with them and you can't see inside. And my first thought is because I feel like everybody, if you can drink, everybody's drinking, you know? So I feel like these people are showing up to the pool and they're definitely drinking, like there's some kind of alcohol in that water bottle. But in reality, it's probably less true than I think it is. I feel like every water bottle I see has alcohol in it, but it's most likely it does not. But when I look over there and I think that there is a slight bit of envy that they would be able to have alcohol in their water bottle if they wanted to. But I don't panic now when those thoughts happen to me. Um, I am very uh, aware that just one sip of alcohol could be the end of my life. That's how I look at it because that's what was happening to me. I was dying. I was dying a slow death when I was drinking. And I know today that if I were to have just one, if I were to gamble and have just one, it would lead to many more that very same day for sure. And I heard somebody say this morning, it's much easier to not drink at all than it is to try to have just one. It feels impossible. And that's when that phenomenon of craving kicks in. And it's as soon as I have one drink of it. And sometimes when I even smell it, I I get this uncomfortable feeling. Um, but what I was reminded of this morning when we were talking about elation and I was thinking about seasons and how my thoughts about drinking and associating drinking with different activities change with the season. Because like fall festivals, I correlate to wineries and drinking, going to these wine festivals, going to like the pumpkin patch, like, oh my gosh, going to holiday parties and stuff in the winter time. So every season brings its own memories of drinking. And what I had to do in the beginning in early sobriety was all the firsts. And I've talked about those before. So learning how to do each thing one by one without drinking. So the first time that I went out and sat by a pool without drinking, and it's like that growth comes through experience. It's emotional growth that comes through experience. So I'm learning by doing it. And I think what I thought this morning is the same thing holds true with feelings. I need to, or I have been in the process of learning by feeling. So just like I had to do all of my firsts and not drink, it's like I also had to go through all of the feelings for the first time without drinking. And those include the hard times, grief, being nervous without drinking. That was a real challenge for me. And I have a new way of dealing with anxiety now, and that is whatever it is that's making me nervous, like dive right into it and do it right away so that it limits the amount of time that I have to be nervous. But also joy. I needed to experience going through things that make me happy, things that make me excited, and not drink, not use alcohol to celebrate. So I always talk about firsts in sobriety as the first things that I had to do, but there's also these firsts in feelings and having these new experiences, learning how to feel without any kind of chemical buffer or alteration, like not throwing alcohol into the mix. So, I do know now that I have a choice and that my wanter is not in charge of my behavior. I am in charge of my behavior. And I get to ask when I am face to face with something that I want, I can pause and think, is this actually good for me? I heard somebody say this morning, as it correlates to over elation, somebody said, I have no good reason to drink. But there's also no bad reason to drink. There's no reason in my life to drink. Nothing is going to be resolved or celebrated with alcohol in my life. I can celebrate wins in entirely different ways. And I'll tell you, celebrating without alcohol is a whole new experience. I I feel just this deeper appreciation. It's like the difference between just putting a smile on my face and being like spiritually fit, like thoroughly joyful. It's totally different. So I need to stay tethered to my recovery program, whether it's raining or the sun is shining, I need to continue to let my roots grow in the recovery program. And as long as I do that, I can feel joy and grief and anxiety and all of these wonderful and terrible feelings without picking up a drink, without regret. Because living sober is not just not picking up a drink. It's truly experiencing life without needing to alter the inside of me. It's allowing myself to be me and being me in the moment. And feeling good is not a threat anymore. Feeling bad is not a threat anymore. Feelings now are gifts, and I get to feel them, I get to feel them all the way. And I never got to do that before. So it was a great reminder today about the gifts of feelings that I'd never let myself experience over so many years. And I'm so grateful that I get to today. So that's all I've got. Thanks so much for joining me today. Happy hot hump day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.